And here we go with game number 1, and let's see who is going to be better on this Savannah. Alright, so we first have a look at the red player who is Blaze at the very bottom, who is already going for his economic guild, as obviously he's going to need the hunting dogs, and he's having already quite nice patch of rhinos right in his doorstep, which is pretty nice. And he's also sending, yeah, I was already going to say that he's maybe sending interestingly the oracle in the forefront, which wouldn't be ideal at all, as usually you want to send them all the 3 directions in here, apart from the wall, which he should be deviating to the left just about now, which he is. And here you can see that Blaze is already going for the rhinos, and he needs to micro a bit, but oh well, that might be a bit tough for him, but also quite a lucky break, because obviously he has right now been able to save some kind of damage into his Willy. But yet again, since he's not running anywhere, he is right now putting him at half health, which could be pretty threatening if he's raided, because obviously that's going to make raiding from his opponents very easy at this stage. Let's have a look on his ally Sensui on the left, who is also working his way into the Rhino, and is basically doing the same thing in here. So they are not really interested in saving any kind of damage, and it seems like that this guy has actually received a bit more damage than the other one. Well, that's interesting. And, well, let's look at the scouting here, because so far we are seeing quite a lot of it, because obviously those two green together with red are both Uranoses, so they are having quite a lot of scouting already down. There's a bit of a giraffes in the forefront, but that's quite far away from his base. And so far he doesn't see all that extra hunt. Just in here, a bit of a chickens, which we have been going for at the very early start, so he's going to be having some later advance, I would be guessing, but otherwise not really anything interesting. Just some monkeys in here, and he definitely needs to go a bit back and hope there is something in the darkness in here. Otherwise, for his teammates, so far it seems like pretty much the same. Not anything behind the bases yet. In the forefront, just one gazelle and literally nothing in there. Oh, there's a bit of a hurt in here, but yet again, it's quite far away and nothing safe for them yet. Same though is true for their opponents. Shelter right now is the first one I am having a look at, who is also going for the rhinos at the very back, and otherwise he has discovered a bit of a monkeys right next to the wall, and also some gazelles, yet again quite far from his TC. So this is kind of telling you that this might be quite aggressive game, as obviously players will be forced to go into quite unsafe places. Fox is already trying to wall his allies tower or something. Not exactly sure, but yeah, this is going to be happening in here. And they are kind of expecting that there's going to be probably a double on Shelty, which is a pretty good guess. And really, this could be something that would be happening in here. So I would be thinking that first or second monument is also going to be here, with Shelty going for a temple. And we are at 2.5 minutes, so that's going to be a pretty decent upgrade for him. 20% myth units crush armor. Well, that's not bad. That's more important for him, so that his opponents don't have it for the Prometheans and whatnot, because they would be all that much more strong, but right now they are not going to be. A bit of a zebra here, not exactly sure if that's going to be something extra, and otherwise, really, this is kind of interestingly low hunt Savannah. That's usually not something that happens. And it's definitely going to be interesting to see how both of these teams tackle this problem. One relic extra, which is for a bit of a better scouting with Pegasus. Get on the relic, better villager, gold get right. Oh, that's sweet. And actually Fox knows about it, so once he actually stops needing empowering in here, if any such moment is going to be coming to pass, he might be wanting to go there very, very soon. Otherwise he will be probably advancing into the next ages, especially for the Uranoses, as Blaze is already finishing with the temple, whereas Sensui is exactly at the same stage, so they will be probably advancing at literally the same time. In the base of Shelty, who is already advancing into the next age quite fast, he's definitely going to be the fastest of his all opponents, and even his ally. Well, that's going to be quite nice, and you can see that this is very nice team play from Fox and Shelty, because Fox is basically taking care of walling him in and preparing some kind of defenses in case he's in trouble. Well, he's already moving probably for the hyenas, as they are closer than those monkeys, and he definitely needs to get there as soon as possible. And he's already using, well, quite risky, I can guess, the ox cart, because he doesn't really have all that much health. Yeah, he definitely needs to be careful, because right now he has opened himself to a pretty bad possibility, as just a few turmas are going to take care of this ox cart very easily, which is going to mean quite a big downtime in the food gathering at the early stage of the game, which could be dangerous because he is kind of advancing fast and his economy is going to be under some heavy strain. We don't see really all that much happening anywhere else, just we have in Oracles kinda on the left in here. Interested in Fox together with the third one as well, and he's already moving some villies into forefront into these giraffes probably, and also building military barracks quite offensively. Usually you see Oranosis or literally any kind of Atlanteans building their buildings right inside their home bases, but this is not happening for Sensui, and he's definitely thinking that he can make something happen in the offensive very soon. The other player, Blaze, is going for the standard, building inside his base, with upgrades going to be hand axe and pickaxe for the red, whereas green is having nothing, just hunting dogs and husbandry, so he's definitely going for full-on aggression right here. Okay, so both of those buildings are ready, and it's also a pretty sweet spot for him, as obviously this is going to make for him make it easy for him to defend this hunting spot, yeah, without too much of a problem. And this double one also to bust in for the blue player, and yeah, you can see right now that Blaze together with Sensui, who seem to be advancing at basically the same player, are not going to be having any kind of luck, as you can see that Shelter is very nicely walled in. It's going to be walled in very soon as well in here. Working on actually trying to make sure that these towers are protected, and is he actually going to default and go for them right off the bat for the upgrade? Well, so far he isn't, but he already knows that Blaze is in, as there wasn't all that much of a wall in on the right side, and well, let's see if he's going to be successful with any kind of radiant like this. But looking at those Hersiers, I don't really expect that. Since we're arriving from the left, whereas at the bottom we see that Shelter is already having a relic, which is better building LOS, which is quite nice, and of course it's going to be helping against any kind of raiding. So far though, he's not having any kind of luck finding his opponent's villies, and he's probably not going to be, because obviously, or rather obviously, Red is taking this carefully, as he's not going for aggressive hunt, whereas he's going for the chickens at the very back, and they are just missing each other, and well, we are going to be seeing the double very soon in full action. Senzu is already waiting for his ally, where he has been pestered by the Sphinx at the very top, losing Murmilo basically to nothing, or not. Well, it's just going to be a matter of time, because this guy is having just 5 hit points, so he's not probably going to do any kind of significant damage. But same could be true for this Herser. Yeah, fortunately for Shelter, he noticed at the right time, and yeah, Red Army is trying to break in at the right side, trying to kill the house, which is a pretty good idea, much better than killing the gate, as obviously, if they could take it down, it would be a bit of a problem, as potentially Shelter could be housed, as he's right now massing some kind of army in his base, returning with absolutely everything in there. But looking how his ally Fox is already advancing into the next age, and it's not bothered at all. Right now he could be a bit, which is going to be way too late for Sensui, but he's probably just interested in the Sphinx and trying to kill it. Otherwise, that's a pretty decent army, and this is kind of telling me that KeeN might be just a bit too late with the aggression in here, because obviously with this kind of defense and potentially even towers from Shelty, which are already being researched, yeah, this is going to be very easy for him to defend, and I'm thinking that Shelty might not really need all that army in his own base. I mean, he might be just happy to go for some kind of raiding, but he will also be fighting both armies from Sensui and Blaze, which will allow the heroic advance Fox, which is going to be just a matter of moments, to basically do what he does best, and that's build a Migdol at some safe gold or next to the TC and go for some raiding with chariot archers, and it will be pretty deadly for his opponents, as obviously they will be forced to break off the attacks, which will buy some extra time for his ally Shelty to potentially pounce himself. Okay, so here we go. There may be going to be Migdol in his ally's base. It doesn't seem so. That's going to be Migdol on the left, and it's an interesting spot because it's not really covering anything. Just Migdol together with Siege Works with some kind of priest, so that's going to be Siege Priest spam as is usual, and he's not really covering this gold, but he's very close there, and he's also quite close to the TC, so I'm thinking that's going to be the next course of action in here. Bit of raiding that they wish that it would be, but it's obviously not, as Shelty is just taking this game very carefully and not losing any kind of units, which will of course allow him to advance into the next age pretty soon and also get some very neat upgrades. But at the same time, this also means that Blaze and Sensui are not losing all that many units themselves, which means they will be able to do the same. And usually, Uranoses are pretty great at advancing faster into the next age, into the heroic age, and maybe even jumping into the mythical, with the Titan Gate coming soon after. Second TC is being built by both Sensui and Blaze, but they are going to be quite slow. But at the same time, there's not any kind of raiding, just a bit of mythical units here on the villager, which is going to be safe. And yeah, fighting against this hero is of course not going to go all that well for the Scorpion Man together with the Sphinx. So Green is right now having all the army right next to his forward base, whereas in here we see some kind of army groping up from Fox, who is preparing for a bit of a interesting variation here, as he's having also some camels together with those chariot archers. And let's see if he can do something substantial in here. He's probably going to force his opponent Sensui to concentrate on him fully, which will mean that on the right we'll be seeing a full fight between Blaze and his opponent Shelty. You can see this is a pretty clever addition from Blaze those Gyro Ballistae, because obviously they are pretty great against any kind of massed infantry, which is going to be the case here from Shelty, but he's already preparing for that with a bit of raiding cavalry, and yep, this is definitely going to help him very nicely. Also working on defending those gold release, as he needs to protect that, as yet another gold is just here behind his bases, which is not going to be safe all that much so far. And yeah, you can also see that Blaze is taking care of this front EC quite nicely. On the left though, there's a bit of a battle, finally, between Sensui and Fox, and it definitely seems like that Fox is having the upper hand, as he's fighting a lot of turmas, and those siege towers are working like quite nice tank here, and they are definitely doing their job in here. Together with the camels, yeah, it seems like that Sensui should be much more careful with his army where he uses it. Because so far it seems like a pretty strong push from Fox, and there's not much that Sensui could be doing against that. He doesn't have all that many Murmilos so far, even though they are at least mediums, so yeah, that's definitely going to help him. Whereas there's still a pretty good army, and especially those siege are going to be quite threatening to his opponent. On the right side, there's a bit of a battle next to the gold that we were talking about earlier, and between Shelty and Blaze, and so far Blaze is not really doing half bad, but he needs to retreat because he doesn't have the correct units against all those horses. He has just a few more mills, and really he would be just losing absolutely everything here, which seems to be happening anyway, as right now, since the units are retreating, they are slower than usual. That's a pretty nice job by Shelty in defense here, and also getting some nice mythical spawns in those draws, which is exactly what he needs here. But maybe Valkyrie would be a bit sweeter, so let's see if he can actually get that somewhere soon. Also switching into a bit of a throwing axeman, which is a very nice addition into the army against those Murmilas. And well, let's see if that's going to be good enough. And he definitely needs some extra mythical spawns if he hopes to push his enemy even further back. Ancestors are recast on the left, and that's into a full-on attack, as Fox has finally made his way into opponent's base, and right now that's going to be quite tough for Sensui, as with all those camels here basically protecting those siege towers. I'm kinda thinking this is going to be very hard for Sensui to come back from, as even though he might deploy all those villagers, those ancestors together with chariot archers and priests, they are just going to be having a wrecking day in here. So let's see how many of them are actually going to die here. So that's one villager dead, second, third, so 3 villagers dead. Okay, so even if Fox isn't able to take down the TC, that's already damage dealt, and I'm kinda thinking that he will be able to take it down without all that much trouble, because he might kill one of the siege towers, but he has paid with the 4th villager in here, and he's going to lose the TC just as well. So yeah, that's a big problem for him, and a very strong push from Fox, basically helped by those ancestors quite nicely, so that's a pretty good one. With Blaze actually returning to help, well, that's going to be way too late in here, even though Sensui already has some kind of army, bit of an idle in here, not for long, but this also means that Shelty will be joining in the fun, and this will definitely change into a 2v1, because Sensui doesn't have enough army, and right now he's probably down on economy as well. So yeah, this is pretty nice, and he's also going to be housed, it seems, if they kill the house here as well, the manor. And looking at the pretty huge army right now from dots, I'm kind of thinking this is going to be very hard for KeeNs to maybe hope to turn this around. And Sensui is definitely not giving up though, together with his teammate, as there is some extra army coming in from right flank of the battlefield, and it might be just enough to at least slow his opponents down. But well, looking how actually Shelty is already stealing the TC, well, they definitely need to hurry up, because if they don't, the TC will be Shelty's, and that's going to be a very nice base of operations to go forward from. So Red is here with pretty much full pop, I would be guessing, or very close to, even though he's at 2 TC, so probably he could get in some extras. But looking how kind of half that they are, with some extra chariot archers from blue, I'm really thinking that this could be a pretty good battle for dots to take, but at the same time Turmas are direct onto the chariot archers, so if Blaze and Sensui play this correctly, target the correct units, they could be on their way to victory in here. And so far they seem to be doing damn well, and really, this is quite close to battle, so let's see if maybe some lucky spawn from Shelty into the mythical units is going to be turning the battle around. So far those medium raiders seem to be the MVP, as they are the ones surviving in here and of course doing the most damage. Getting right now rid of those Ballistae. But well, on the right side on the minimap you also should notice that Shelty is going for a second TC, whereas Fox is also going for a second, so that's going to be Shelty at 3 very soon, even though Blaze is in the Hesperid trees through Thea. So yeah, TC is up, which is a big problem for KeeN, as there is a base of operations for dots set up right on their doorstep, and this is really seeming like that this might be basically the last moments of the game, because Sensu is yet again getting hammered here on the village account, and he's basically having no economy, just a few villages in here, and once the enemy bounces there as well, yeah, which is probably not going to be that long in coming, well, good luck defending that. But let's not call it a game yet, because obviously Red is still untouched and he's basically allowed to do whatever he wants so far. So he's having a pretty nice army and he's going to be incorporating a bit of a birdies, but looking how Shelty will be held by Fox and some of the priests of his, there shouldn't be really all that much of a problem in here. Pretty nice amount of siege towers, definitely should help with taking down the TC. That should be the next course of action for the Deities of Death offensive. But the amount of Ballista is a bit scary at this stage, because when they are at some kind of critical limit or critical numbers, they are actually very hard to get rid of, because they really deal a substantial amount of area of damage. And well, you can kinda guess where this is going, but with proper micro, I'm thinking that Fox should be able to single them out without all that much of a problem with the chariot archers, as they are pretty mobile and have a very nice range. You can see he's having 20 range, whereas Ballista are having the same, so that's going to be just up to proper micro. Oh, well, that's a bit unfortunate right now for Fox, because he is without any kind of help from Shelty, because Shelty has gone for a bit of raiding on the right side. He's trying to basically punish his opponent. Oh, and he's punishing him quite nicely, because Blaze was basically on this gold, I kind of think, and that's not very good idea, because he has been found out, and Shelty is just punishing him very, very hard, and he's going to kill at least one extra in here. And well, Red will be lucky if he actually retreats with at least some villagers in here, as this one is probably going to die as well. It's just a question of time before all of them are dead, whereas in the base of right now, Shelty, not really Sensui anymore, we see that there hasn't been really all that much of a success with the attack, as Red has been forced to retreat back and defend his own base. Yeah, that was a very great raid-in from Shelty, whereas in the bases here, it basically allowed Fox to recuperate and build an extra Migdol in here in just a matter of moments, and Sensui, even though he's coming back into the game quite nicely, is right now going to be facing a very uphill battle, as he's having 1 TC, Fox is having 2, whereas he's also having quite strong economy and a very good army composition right now, together with a bit of help from Shelty. So right now, Blaze has returned to his own base, and he has forced his opponent to retreat, which is kinda expected with all those birds and extra Ballistae, which is a pretty tough army to deal with for Shelty, and he will definitely need to rely on the Raiden party at the bottom to deal some extra damage to opponent's economy. At the same time, this also means that Fox is free basically to go forward into Sensui's base, which is just right around the corner. You can see also that Sensui is housed, and this might be because he's actually having his pop limit in the army, but it doesn't really seem so, because he has just finished this manor and it allowed extra villager to actually queue in into the TC. So yeah, he was good old housed in here, and we should be moving somewhere else on the map. For example, on the right side, where it seems like that Blaze is preparing to take the battle to his opponent, which could alleviate some kind of pressure, but he's also not going to be having any kind of luck, as obviously this TC is going to be a bit too much for him to defeat. So we see some copper shields for better defense against pierce armor or other pierce attack, and also he's going to be advancing into the next age. Seeing how he's housed with 3 TCs, yeah, right now calling all those guys in, he will be advancing into Bragi just about now. So that's a pretty nice job. pretty nice job. This Migdol is basically securing this position on the map without all that much of a problem. But Blaze is already through into Mythical Age through Hecate, with yet another of his wheelies going to be dead. And he might be actually attempting to go for a fast Titan. So far we don't really see it. He's having both Spirit Trees inside his base, which is basically preparing for the Titan Gate, I kinda thinking. So we should be seeing it very soon. There was an attempt by Blaze to go for yet another TC, but unfortunately for him it has been stopped as Fox was doing a pretty good job targeting exactly the moments or other parts of the map that he should be, and he is denying this TC for the moment, but probably not for too much longer. Tartarian cast at the very back due to the help of those very nicely placed birdies, but looking how Shelty is having some kind of army in here, and there's also a TC from Fox. He could be potentially spamming some kind of mercenaries in here to help with this. He's also having quite some idols in here. Not for much longer though. And also advancing to a heroic age from Sensui, which is interesting as he's already also quite nicely finding his opponent Fox, and he's going to be having quite some kills in here. That's a pretty good job and downtime in gold economy for Fox, which is a bit of a problem, of course. Quite nice stopping them from getting into the DC. So that was a very nice job indeed. Like about 5-6 villages at least, so that's a pretty good one. But we also have to look into the base of Blaze, who is yet again, or rather, confirming our suspicion that he's going for a faster Titan, and he has also stolen the Spirit Trees. Does he have gold to actually make use of that? Doesn't seem so. Yeah, right now at least. Targeting them for himself, and there was a bit of an attempt by Shelty also to go for the gold villies in here by Sensui, but that's not going to be all that long-lived, and yeah, Sensui will be free to defend against the attack that is coming his way on the left from Fox. But Fox seems to be taking the situation a bit slower right now, as he's basically just waiting for the Mythical Age, I would be guessing. Let's just have a look inside his TCs. He is housed, so he could be feeling comfortable going into the next age, but so far he isn't, and well, this is just opening all kinds of opportunities for KeeNs to come back into the game, which is definitely not something that they want. As you can already see, there's a bit of an attempt at the DC, which is not really all that strong. It's basically just trying to stop the siege works and killing a few villages. As without that, there's quite a lot of extra fire on him, and I'm not exactly sure if this is the correct battlefield that he would be happy about, or should be even fighting in the first place. Because really that's a huge amount of damage from both the Migdol and of course also the town center. But he is dealing some kind of damage and at least forced Fox to retreat back to defend against that, which is a pretty good feat. And looking how he's fighting with Turmas against Chariot Archers, that's actually a pretty good fight for him, as obviously those guys in green are direct contrast to those blue ones. So Titan Gate will be coming in very soon, whereas in the middle we see a bit of a raiding, or quite a substantial raiding from Blaze into Shelty, which is also pretty powerful in here. And it seems like the Dots actually thought that they have this game in their pockets, but so far that's not really true, and they need to be a bit more careful with where they place their abilities and also how they progress further. Shelty is right now going into full offensive, having copper shields so far just and medium cavalry, so not really anything extra with medium infantry as well, but having the boars in here and then just two heresiers, he's probably not going to get some extra spawns, and he needs to be a bit more careful as he's going to be entering a very dangerous battlefield between those towers and town center. So he will be needing some extra help from his ally very soon. With Sensui actually making a pretty good attempt at the DC, as he has incorporated some extra destroyers in, and well, Fox doesn't seem to be having the correct armies in here. He's having just a lot of pierce damage in those Chariot Archers together with priests, and that's definitely not something that can get rid of them in some kind of commanding manner. Yeah, you can see that they are still very nicely surviving, and DC is kinda half dead. But Mythical Age is in together with Nidhogg, and well, that's not kinda lucky for him, because obviously birdies are pretty great against Nidhogg, and you can see how fast they are actually taking him down. Wow, that's kinda unlucky at this stage, and even though with the flaming weapons in, he might not be having strong enough army to actually rather do something substantial in here. I wouldn't really be saying that he can actually take down the Titan Gate just off yet. He's definitely interested in a DC first, which is a pretty clever course of action. But looking at the Cairo Ballista at the very top, well, he's going to be suffering some heavy losses, and he definitely has to hope that he will be sending enough reinforcements in. So far it doesn't seem to be really true all that much, but he has taken care of one of the towers together with the TC. So he might be having a very open way into his opponent's Titan Gate, but looking at the extra tower and the palace in here, it's still not going to be easy at all. And it seems like that Schulte is taking this very seriously, as he has already built a temple right inside his opponent's base, which is also very nice, of course. And definitely going to help him in assault on the Titan Gate. But looking how Sensui is returning to this battlefield here, or rather coming into the battlefield for the first time, seeing that his ally needs help, and looking how flaming weapons are right now gone, this should be reasonably safe for this Titan Gate. So let's see if he actually can stick with that. And looking how the birdies have actually been killed. Okay, had just the Nidhogg at half health in here. That's going to be a bit of a problem for Blaze together with Sensui to defend, especially looking at the onslaught of Fire Giants, which was of course the reason for the temple being built right in. So yeah, right now I would be much more optimistic for Dots to taking it down, especially with the arrival of Fox right in here, getting rid of all those problematic Arcane that will be shooting at the Nidhogg, and especially with Thoth right now coming from Fox. Will he actually cast somewhere around here, maybe Meteors? That could be a pretty good job, or rather pretty good idea. And if they can actually take control of those both trees, could be just casting it in here, right there. So yeah, we see a lot of that release with... Oh, that's too close. That's too close. That was just 1,000 hit points left for the Titan Gate to come up, but it was just a bit too late, because obviously they have seen that they would probably not finish, and it also cost all the economy and all the base for Blaze and Sensui, which means that Dots are winning the game and leading 1-0. So pretty nice job, with Shelty being the MVP here, but Fox not really being far behind, so they were both playing quite nicely. Yeah, the economy score for Sensui. He was losing like 4 villages yet again to some pretty heavy raiding. And even though he was still in the end having a bit more villages than Blaze by 1. But very nice military count, even though he was facing quite hard situation from the very early game. Yeah, you can see the drop here. Those are about 4 villages raided. So, nice job and GG.